So, so this is ministry. What the hell did I sign up for? At least my costume looks like I have Sunny Day's been training me in the gym for 6 months, huh? Yeah, so we had the trouble with the transition in the first 9 o'clock service. I'm about ready to say some serious stuff, so any more laughs to get out of the room? So if you haven't known by now, by the title or by our wardrobes, this is a Wizard of Oz theme. And I am the Cowardly Lion, and what am I going to talk about? Courage. And we want to take it a little bit deeper than just talking about courage, because to me, courage, I very much learned from my dad. My dad was a stoic in the best sense of the word, and by that I'm very, very complimentary. He would always tell me, you go out in the world, you let no one outwork you. Whatever you do, you take great care of your family and your loved ones, even if it meant lots of personal sacrifice for yourselves. But I want to take it a little deeper today. I want to weave the story of courage into the experience of fear because I think they intertwine. It's another one of these, it's not, you don't chase away fear to have courage. It's one of these both and things. And Nelson Mandela told us that very well. He said the same thing to us. He said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And the great Athenian historian in general, Thucydides, this costume makes me have issues with that, told us this. Yeah. He told us this, how freedom and courage interact. He says, the secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. So you have to get to this point of being courageous to have freedom. And I always wanted to bring Ernest Holmes into this. And I've told you before, when I read Ernest Holmes, I like to read the books that Ernest wrote, where they just wrote down what fell out of his mouth. And there's one great book called The Ernest Holmes Papers, which I'm sure we have back there, and I got this material from there. It's a series of his lectures and him just talking and getting it recorded. And for Ernest, this is a bit about tough love when he's talking about courage, because Ernest always told us, we have the divine life inside of us. We did absolutely nothing to deserve it, and there's nothing that can take it away, even transitioning from this life experience. Because that essence of the divine goes on from us and just goes to a different way of being, having a different body, whatever that looks like. But he tells us this. He says, know that you are made from the God within, and have the courage and fortitude to at long last look up into the eternal life in which you live and say, God, I thank you that I gave birth to every trouble I ever had, to every sadness and every fear. So this is a bit of that tough love, and at times we don't teach it as strong as that here, at times we do, that we're all responsible for creating our own life. If we want to change our life, we change our thinking. But Ernest, not to leave us out alone, he tells us he's with us there. He goes on to say, I know what tears are as well as you, but always, always remember this. The soul is free and the spirit is boundless. So courage and fear are intertwined. We don't shy away from fear. We don't try and chase it away. When we're courageous in the midst of fear, that's the both and part of it. And I want to tell you a story. It's a story about a king that has a very dangerous mission. And he hires his magician to go find him a man courageous enough to do this mission. And the magician searches the land and comes up with 4 finalists. And the king wants to see it himself, see the demonstration himself. So they go to a field, and the magician says to the men, there's a barn over there. What I want each of you to do in your own turn is cross the field and bring forth what is inside the barn. And the first man starts. He gets about a third of the way. The sky turns dark. There's a torrential rainfall. Lightning is all around him. He falls to the ground, paralyzed with fear. Now it's the second man. He's better. He passes the first man. The rain goes further and further toward him. He can barely make his way forward. And lightning flashes right beside him. He falls to the ground, stricken with fear. Now it's the third man. The third man is known to be extremely strong and extremely courageous. He gets by the second man. And then all of a sudden the ground starts shaking and opens up in front of him. And this master of a courageous man meets the same fate. He falls to the ground in fear. His eyes glazed over. He cannot do anything. And then it's the fourth man. And you can see he is white as a sheet from fear. And he starts very slowly, just walks very, very slowly. And he keeps telling himself, he walked 5 steps, and he tells himself, I'm all right for now. He passes the first man. He tells himself, I'm all right for now. The wind gets stronger. He can barely make his way through. He passes the second man. He tells himself, I'm all right for now. His steps are getting smaller and smaller. He passes the third man and sees this look of grief on this powerful person that he's looked up to his entire life. But he tells himself, I'm all right for now. And then he finally gets to the barn. When he gets to the barn, the skies turn light, the rain stops, and the ground stops shaking. But then he hears this crunching and grinding sound inside the barn. He's got one more bit of courage to muster. So he opens the barn, sees this beautiful white steed munching on some oats, this beautiful white coat of shining armor. He puts the armor on, rides the steed back to the king and the magician, and says, I'm ready, sire. And the king is thrilled. He says, my goodness, that was an act of such great bravery. How do you feel? And the man says, I'm all right for now. Because that's where courage comes from. It doesn't come from not being afraid. It comes from living in the fear and going one step at a time. And that's what our life is about. And it doesn't ever go away. We don't go through fear and have courage one time. As we progress, we have a different challenge, and we have a different way of being. And that's what Ernest Holmes was telling us. Whatever you do, don't let that fear stop you from showing that wonderful essence of the divine that you are, and to bring this life of the divine to everyone that you meet. And that's my message. Thank you.
Good job, Reverend Michael. Cowardly Lion. Does everybody know who I am? Glenda? Yes. I love The Wizard of Oz. I love that movie and the story so much. But unlike the story of the movie, I probably didn't watch the entire movie until I was like a teenager, because when I was little, those little flying monkeys just scared me to death. I would fast forward through like a big chunk of it, get from the beginning to the end, But as I began to actually watch this story play out or read it play out, I realized that it was one of the most profound lessons that we could ever learn. Carl Jung, he used to talk about metaphors and symbolisms and stories and fairy tales that would replay themselves over and over and over again throughout time. And so this story of The Wizard of Oz, of Dorothy's journey, is one of those stories that we have heard over and over again. And because of that, there is great meaning for us individually. And that's what I want to share this morning. So in this story, Dorothy is us. She is taking that quest of self-discovery. She is on that hero's journey, that same journey that Jesus went on in the desert, the same journey that the Buddha went on in the forest seeking enlightenment, the same journey that Harry Potter went on at Hogwarts. It's that journey of moving out of what is comfortable and known and into the yet to be, into that becoming of who we are. Jean Houston, in her book, The Wizard of Us, she would say that Dorothy's journey to Kansas and back is really a metaphor for our experience of discovering our inner unconscious and looking at all of the facets and archetypes that are within us and coming to terms with those in order to understand ourselves more fully and to find meaning in life. And so she goes on a journey, as each and every one of us have or will at some point, and she comes across the scarecrow, right? And the scarecrow thinks that he doesn't have a brain and that he's not smart enough. And how many times have we told ourselves that we weren't wise, that we didn't have enough intellect, that we didn't have what it took? And come to find out that every one of us has all the wisdom and intelligence within us. We just didn't know it. And then we come to that tin man that has built all of these walls up because he's been hurt. And he doesn't even know that he still has a heart. And how many of us have done that in our lives? We've showed some vulnerability. We've shared love with someone, and it hurt us. And then we realize that we've built up all of these walls and we don't even know how to receive love, let alone express it. But little by little, on this spiritual quest, if we're lucky, if we work at it, these walls start to crumble. They start to break down. And we start to allow in or feel that heart center, that life force energy within us that allows us to share it with the world. And then we come face to face with the cowardly lion. I think that I've had the most struggle with the cowardly lion. Because every time I want to do something outside my comfort zone, I have the cowardly lion coming in within me, keeping me up at night, telling me I can't do it, telling me, oh, you're not brave enough, you don't have enough courage. And then the silly thing is when we look back on our life, we realize we've made it this far. And it must have taken some courage for us to get this far, right? For this becoming is so courageous. The becoming of whoever we are, of remembering with spirit. It is a courageous spiritual quest that we are on. But we can't forget that along our journey, each and every one of us, I know, has come across that wicked witch. That wicked witch is that voice coming from the deep and dark recesses of our inner mind and being that's saying, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. You're not a good parent. You're not a good student. You're not a good child. You're not a good caretaker or partner. You're just no good. You didn't do it right. You're not going to be anything. You've already messed up too many times. Did your wicked witch ever say anything like that to you, or is it just me? Yeah. Oh my goodness, she comes out at the most annoying times. Her heckling little voice always wants to start up right when I'm about to do something vulnerable or expose my inner self to someone. And she says, be careful. You don't want to get hurt. They're not going to want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. But the thing about it is, seriously, the wicked witch gets a house thrown on her. The wicked witch gets a house thrown on her, okay? Not only that, but this is the greatest symbolism. Water melts her. Water is the most beautiful symbol for the life force energy that has created all of us. It is that undifferentiated spirit. It is flexible and vital, and it kills the witch. And so what if we, being made almost fully of water and recognizing water as that energy, what if we allow the water to melt away that negativity within us? To melt away those negative thoughts, that nasty old wicked witch that likes to pop in at the most inopportune times. Yes. And so, as we are Dorothy making our way, we come to the wonderful world of Oz. And we're here so excited to meet the Wizard of Oz who's going to save us and going to give us all the answers. And how many of us have searched outside of ourselves for the answers? Looked to this person or that person or a spiritual leader or a guru or a teacher and came to find that what? That they were just a human being. That the wizard is just a man. We're human beings. And we need not look outside of ourselves to find the truth. We don't need to search anywhere besides inside. We have to respect our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions, our intuition, and allow that to guide us in our journey. Not some person, not some thing, nothing outside of us. And so we come to the point where Dorothy comes face to face with Glenda, the good witch, and says, "Oh, can you help me? Will you help me?" And Glenda, smiling, says, "You don't need any help, my dear. You've had the power all along." And the scarecrow cries out, "Well, why didn't you tell her this in the beginning?" And she says kindly, "Because she wouldn't have believed me. She had to figure it out for herself." And so I want to invite all of us to just close our eyes for a minute. And just imagine that great spirit, that universal presence, that life force, that vital energy that is whatever we call God. And imagine it just saying to us right now, "You had the power all along, my beloveds. You had the power all along. You just had to figure it out for yourself." You can open your eyes. And so I just want that to be our reminder this week in our lives, that whatever we've been through, whatever we've put ourselves through, whatever we have journeyed through thus far, was all an act of our becoming. It is all part of our learning it for ourselves and coming to know that power that is within us now. And so it is. Thank you.